why Australia is the most unusual country I've ever traveled to. What up, YouTube? It's your boy Jermaine, back with another video. This video, I thought I would talk about why Australia is hands down the most unusual country, the weirdest country that I've ever been to. Now, if you're Australian and you're watching this video, I don't mean to offend you. I don't mean to talk about your country. For the most part, I'm not really talking about Australians in this video. I'm just talking about my experience in the country of Australia, and I thought I would just talk about some of the things I've noticed. First off, if you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button because I am one of the coolest YouTubers out there that you have never discovered. And yeah, it is a warm day. I think I'm gonna take my knee pads off because I just got done skateboarding. So Australia. Let's talk about this country. So first off, Australia is country number 50. And I have put Australia off for a very, very long time because, you know, I've heard people say things like, oh, Australia is really, really expensive, or Australia is really, really, it's boring, or the people are racist, or it's just not worth going to, or it's just too far away. There's so many reasons why I put off traveling to Australia, but this year I say, yo, let's go to Australia. This is continent number 6. I'm super stoked to be here, and let's just talk about Australia. So first off, I backpack, I travel all the time, and I usually stay in like backpacker places, right? And I've noticed here, oh man, oh my gosh, this place is like, how do I describe it? It seems like everybody I meet just comes to Australia just to work. Usually in most countries that I go to, I'll, you know, go backpack and I'll meet people and like hang out and do stuff like that. But here, one thing I've noticed in pretty much all of the backpacker places I've stayed in 4 different backpacker locations as of now on this trip. And I've noticed one key thing. Almost everyone that are staying in hostels are living in hostels. And majority of the people that are living in hostels are working in Australia. And just traveling around and staying in different hostels in different parts of the world, I've noticed that that's not really the case. Most people are just traveling and they don't just go to a country and work. However, Australia is a little bit different. Australia is very, very, very far away from a lot of other places around the world. So I guess when people come to Australia, they want to stay a little bit longer. You know, maybe like a month or maybe a year, because I've met so many people that have been here a year. I don't think I could ever survive here a year. I don't even know if I can survive here a month. So the first hostel I stayed in, and gosh, the hostels here are just, they're very, very different from hostels I've stayed in other parts of the world. One thing I can say about a lot of the hostels, they have really, really nice kitchens because it seems like everybody cooks. So let's talk about some of these backpacker destinations. So the first place I stayed in was, it was actually pretty chill. I noticed that pretty much everyone that were staying there were working, and this was very apparent right around 5 o'clock. Right around 5 o'clock, there's like 10 people coming in. Not all at the same time, but like, you know, sort of one after another. You see everyone has a uniform on, like construction, like construction workers, right? But everybody's from another country. Like majority of the travelers that I met in all the hostels I've stayed in here in Australia are from Europe. There's also a handful of travelers I met from like South America, like Argentina, Chile. For the most part, like everybody is just working. So after I stayed at the first hostel for 3 nights and didn't really meet too many people, I definitely got to talk to a lot of people, but I want to say that like people were like very short. When you're working like 5 days a week, you're in a whole different mode versus someone who is traveling just full-time or part-time or whatever. So you're just in a whole different mode. So I totally get it. The first place I stayed in, once again, this place had mad cockroaches. Like it was super dirty. Like when I first like arrived, I was sitting on this couch and there was a cockroach crawling and I freaked out and I was like jump like that, and like people were looking at me like I was like insane, like I was afraid of a freaking cockroach. And I'm like, yo, I'm just not used to this. In California, we don't really have cockroaches because it's not very humid in California. Humid places are places where cockroaches really like, and Sydney is mad humid. By the time I left that hostel, it was literally like cockroaches like crawling around me, and I was like totally fine with it. And I'm thinking, wow, this is weird. Next, so go off to the next hostel, and you know, I didn't really notice as many cockroaches, but I actually met some pretty cool people at that hostel. I met some girls from the UK, and you know, we got to hang out, we got to party a little bit. And then I was staying at that place for like 3 nights, and I thought of staying, and I wanted to extend another 2 nights. So when I extended another 2 nights, I switched rooms. When I switched rooms, oh my gosh, I went upstairs to the new room like after 2 o'clock. Dude, it was a complete mess. Like, it was literally shit everywhere. Like, it was disgusting. Like, it just looked like people were living there for like for years, basically. Like, I mean, oh my gosh. Like, I didn't take any videos and take any pictures. It was like just really bad. I made sure that like my feet never touched the floor. Like, I literally climbed into the top bunk bed and then took my shoes off. Like, that's how dirty it was. Now, I know a lot of people may wonder, why don't you just go stay somewhere else? I didn't really care. Like, I was like, yo, this is really dirty, and I've definitely stayed in dirty places before, but I think this is by far one of the most dirtiest places I've stayed in my life, okay? So, stayed there for 2 nights, and that was totally cool. I switched to another hostel that was really, really close. I actually liked that place a little bit more. Another thing I've noticed about all these hostels, they tend to have really fast internet. This is one thing I've heard about Australia, that the internet is really, really slow, and the internet is really, really horrible. I actually haven't had that problem at all. I would say the internet speeds here are faster than they are in the US, or at least parts of the US that I go to. Third hostel, pretty chill. Once again, a lot of people living there and working there, and it's very cliquish. You know, it's very cliquish. Like, I'm talking to this one girl, and you know, she's like, oh yeah, I've been living here for 6 months. And I'm like, oh, that's 6 months. And then there's a guy that comes in, and he's got a uniform on, and he's living there too. And he goes up and he kisses this girl, you know. And I just thought, oh yeah, maybe that's her boyfriend, like totally normal. 2-3 minutes later, another guy comes in. Once again, this is around like 5 o'clock when people are getting off work. There's like another guy come in, totally different dude, and she's like, hey, how's it going? He walks up and gives her a kiss too, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe she has 2 boyfriends. And then, okay, a third guy walks up and like the same thing happens. So I'm thinking, okay, is this like an orgy type thing? Like, do they just like live here and like just have sex with everyone? I just don't get it. Like, okay, next. So I'm there, leave that place. Now, all of those places were in Sydney. So now I'm in Melbourne. And Melbourne is a really, really cool city. I'd have to say, out of all the places, all the cities I've been to in the world, Melbourne probably has the coolest buildings I've seen. However, I've never been to Dubai. I've never traveled to mainland China. Dubai and probably mainland China have even more cooler buildings. But just, I mean, just look behind me right here. Like, look at these cool buildings. And look at this cool building. This is actually why I made this video right here, because I wanted this building to be in the background. I think this is a really, really cool looking building here. It looks like it's still under construction or something like that. But yeah, that looks really, really cool. But this is Melbourne. Really, really, really cool buildings around. So, staying in another hostel here in Melbourne, and oh my gosh, this one it's actually a really cool hostel, especially how it's laid out. Once again, I'm not going to say any of the names of these hostels that I stayed at on this trip. I don't want to promote any of these hostels, and I also don't want to like bash any of these hostels. That's not what I want to do. I'm just giving my experience, and I'm just going to leave it at that. So if you come to Australia, I just hope that you don't stay in the same places that I stayed in, and if you do, I just hope that you don't have the same experience. So at this new place, and man, this place is really cool. It's huge. Like, it's multiple floors, and each floor there's like something to do. Like, there's a library here, and this floor there's like a study room, and this floor there's like laundry, and there's this huge kitchen. Oh my gosh, this kitchen can hold like maybe 20 people at one time. There's multiple stoves. There's like 10 stoves in this kitchen. Like, yeah, it's a really cool hostel, but once again, it's just a hostel full of people that are living in Australia and working in Australia. And this is totally the case right at 5 o'clock. Right at 5 o'clock, you see the construction workers come in. You see the coffee baristas come in. And it's just like, wow, everybody's off work. The kitchen at 5 o'clock is just insane. You cannot even walk through that kitchen. There's that many people in here because no one eats out. Everyone just cooks food because eating out is kind of expensive. And if you cook food, you save a lot more money. And since a lot of the travelers that I meet are literally coming from Europe and coming from other countries only to work, they want to save money and maximize their money. So it totally makes sense to cook. And gosh, at this hostel, there is this one guy in the kitchen. I guess he's over the kitchen. This dude is like the weirdest that I've ever met. Okay, so I've noticed that he's staring at me like all the time. Once again, none of these people I'm talking about are Australian. Okay, so if you're watching this from Australia, I'm not talking about you. This dude is like, maybe he's like 40, and once again, all these hostels, they have this rule that you can't stay in the hostel unless you're under 35. And in all these hostels, I met people that were over 35. Gosh, the second hostel, I want to say like majority of the people were over 35, and you know, maybe they're like 35 to like 45, not much older than that. But yeah, so there's this weird guy, right? And I notice he's constantly staring at me. He's constantly staring at me, like I'll look the other way and like see that he's like staring at me, and it just got really annoying, and it got really awkward. So once I was in the kitchen, and the kitchen's full of people, okay, full of people. He's staring at me, and I would just walk straight up to him, and I said, "Hello, my name is Jermaine Ellis. I'm from the United States. What's your name? Where are you from?" He just turns around and walks away. Like, I guess that was a little too awkward for him, but I thought it was super awkward that he's constantly staring at me. And after I, approached him and said that, you know what happened? He just keeps staring at me, like, and after I confronted him, of course, he just keeps staring at me. Super, super awkward. I have like 2 more nights at that place. Totally not complaining. I'm not afraid of the guy, but it's just a little weird to have people like staring at you. That's hostels. Let's just talk about other stuff in Australia. A question that I've received quite a bit: are Australians racist? And honestly, I would have to say that I don't necessarily feel that they are. One thing I notice when I'm back in San Francisco, I notice when I'm like walking down the street at certain times, or when I'm in certain places in San Francisco, I can see fear in people's eyes when they see me. Like when I'm walking down the street and it's like a woman and they're by themselves and it's just me and I'm walking, like I can see that like they're afraid of me, like I can see the fear in their eyes just because I'm black and the media, and you know how it is in the US. But here I haven't experienced that once. Like not one time I haven't experienced that, but a lot of times I don't, but most times, majority of the time when I'm out of the U.S., I don't experience that whole scenario that I just described to you guys. I also must point out that I haven't really met that many Australians. Just traveling around the country, a lot of the people that I meet are from other places, they're from other countries. And when I hear an Australian accent, I'm like, wow, it's an Australian accent. And the Australians tend to be very nice and friendly. I've been going to a lot of different libraries to charge the electric skateboard, because if you go to a library and charge your electric skateboard, it's free. And also the internet's really, really fast at the libraries in Australia. So it's a win-win for me. I can charge your electric skateboard, I can edit some videos and upload videos to YouTube without using cell phone data. Once again, cell phone data in Australia is very inexpensive. For about $10 US, I got 35 gigabytes worth of data. Very, very cheap. But at the library, the internet's just as fast and it's free. So I go to the library and charge a skateboard. And this is a place where I meet a lot of other Australians just at the library and stuff. Like I walk in, sit down, people are like, "Hey, how's it going? What kind of skateboard is that?" "Oh, it's an electric skateboard. It's really cool." And gosh, Australians are like really, really nice here. Well, the Australians that I meet. Now this is in Melbourne. Now in Sydney, it kind of seems like the Australians are not as friendly, but it kind of makes sense because Sydney is a big city, and that's equivalent to someone coming to the US and saying, "Oh, I don't think New Yorkers are that friendly," just because it's a big city and it's just fast-paced place and people are just on a different mode. So Sydney, I'm not gonna like knock Sydney for that, because it's just a normal thing. Big cities, people may not be as friendly. People don't just take the time. But yeah, I thought Sydney was okay, but Melbourne was. I actually like Melbourne a lot. I like Melbourne a lot. Melbourne is a really, really cool city. Now, on this trip, I did bring a skateboard, which is something that I never did on another trip. I usually just take public transportation and, travel around like a normal person. But on this trip, I brought the electric skateboard, and I'm actually wondering if I would not have brought it, would I actually still be here? Because I'm just going to be honest, guys. I've been very bored. This is by far the most boring trip I've taken. Maybe I've spent like a lot of time in cities. I really like cities because there's lots of food. It's really good to skateboard. One thing I really wanted to do is I wanted to meet up with more skaters in Australia, and I just haven't really met up with that many skaters. In Melbourne, there's a skate scene, but there's no meetups this weekend. And I'm in Melbourne with the skateboard, and there's no meetups. And okay, that's a bummer. I did meet up with some skaters in Sydney, and that was one day, and that one day was freaking awesome. the Australians were freaking awesome, yo. They're just down to earth, super cool people. Just, I had a blast. Like, I had so much fun. But beyond that, I really haven't hung out with very many people. I really haven't explored Australia with anyone. It's just been a very shallow trip. Tinder. What about Tinder? Tinder. You guys know when I travel, I'm always on Tinder looking for someone to hang out with. Tinder, no. I haven't come across like any like, I've definitely matched with very few people, but I haven't like met anyone off Tinder at all. Maybe they don't use Tinder as much in this country. I've noticed in English-speaking countries, Tinder is not as popular versus not the same as it is in countries where English is not the predominant language. That's one thing I wanted to point out. Getting around Australia is very simple. It's very easy. That's one thing I really like about this country. There's tons of bike lanes. So if you ride a bike, or if you come to Australia and you rent a bike, or if you bring an electric skateboard, there's tons of bike lanes to get around. For the most part, I would say people are very friendly, but people are very, at least the people I've met here are very like, they're very shallow. They're very, like the conversations don't really go past, hey, how are you doing? How are you? You know, that's one thing I've kind of noticed. Maybe it's just because it's me. Maybe it's just my experience. I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been in cities the whole time. This is just one thing I've noticed. This is kind of a weird video to make because I don't really even know what to say about it. Like, I've never been to a place like this. I've never been so bored in a country. Like, I've been sleeping for 10 hours a day because I'm thinking like, oh, I'm gonna wake up and what am I gonna do? Like, I'm here in Australia for a month and I'm thinking, do I ever want to go to any other country for a month again? Like, I'm so bored. Oh. Yeah, it's just been a very quiet trip. Like, I don't know. I don't want to say anything bad about the country, but it's just not the most entertaining place I've ever been to. No, I actually did book a flight earlier today, and I'm going to go up to the Gold Coast. And I hear the Gold Coast is a whole lot different from the southern region, like the cities and stuff like that. And there is a little hippie town I'm going to go check out. We'll see what the little hippie town is all about. As of now, I'm just, after just being in Sydney for 4 days, I've almost just sort of kind of almost given up, you know? And I'm almost like just counting down the days. I'm just being honest now. This is that trip. I'm not going to leave early. I don't want to leave early because I've never left early on a trip. But I'm definitely counting down the days. And I really hope that, you know, once I travel north, things are a little bit different. But as of now, I am extremely bored. Like, extremely. And another thing I want to point out too, I know about 10 Australians that live here. Like, literally 10 Australians. And I've seen one. And the reason why I've seen one is because everybody is really busy. Really busy. Like, I know there's another guy that we've been messaging back and forth. He lives in Melbourne. I've been in Melbourne here for 4 days. This guy works 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. So I'm not even going to see him. And there's another girl that lives in Melbourne that I met in South Africa. She works like crazy too. And I think we may hang out tomorrow. We may. But I don't really know. Like, it's like I say, like, I don't know what to say about this country, yo. I don't. Like, it's a very beautiful place. It reminds me of America a lot. Hands down. It reminds me of America so much. But that's, I don't even know if I can upload this video to YouTube. Like, I feel like it's not even a good video because I don't even know what to. Yeah, this has been my experience in Australia. I don't